there's never a right time, I don't think. And realistically, after his last performance, it was not his last performance, but his performance before Khan when he boxed Crawford, a lot of people were saying, Kell Brook's short, he wants to pack up, but his punch resistance is gone. He's 35 years old, he needs to pack up. And then he puts in gets himself in fantastic shape, puts in a great performance against Khan, albeit at the back end of the career. But I don't think you would have guessed. I don't think you would have guessed really from Kell Brook's point of view that, he was a bit long in the tooth or past his best, because he came in great shape and boxed like he normally did. Khan, there's an argument to say, well, he did look a little bit washed up, but to be honest, he took a lot of big shots from Kell, whose punch power still then. He kind of stood on his feet. So, you have to ask yourself the question, when is the right time? And I think the right time is when you haven't got the urgency for it anymore, you haven't got the urge or the will to do it anymore, or you haven't got the buzz anymore. And I think that's how it was with Kelly, no longer motivated. There was nobody out there to motivate him to fight, who got the juices flowing, the juices flowing, as he would say. Because I don't think I've got anything left to prove, because I always had something left to prove. Because I never fought Khan, and I think if that fight had never come around, I think I would have retired after Crawford, because I don't think anybody else would have motivated me enough to carry on.
And I think it's interesting that you say there that, Khan was almost like the one guy that could get him back into a ring. And was there any indication in the build-up from Kell that maybe this was a case of one more and then we're done? Was there any indication that it was going to be the last one before the fight?
No, that was it. He said, look, this is going to be it. We're going to have a laugh on this camp. And the thing is, the camp was one of the longest camps, because it actually started back in July. And, I think originally it was touted for October, then December. And, Kell started training in July, and he said he got to October and he kind of can't change the date. And I said to Kell that, Khan's obviously realising his age and he's not getting in shape or as fit as he thought he would. That's, 4 months after they decided to have the fight, because they started negotiating in July. So you got like 3 or 4 months, and Khan had been training, and he probably, feeling it. And then it got postponed again. I kept saying to Kell, look, you can tell he's not, the Khan he used to be, because it's taking him too long to get into shape. And then they let it run past Christmas. And I said to Kell, they've probably done that to trip you up, because, everybody wants to enjoy Christmas. But it worked in Kell's favour. So it was one of the longest training camps that we ever had. And for the last 8 weeks of it, we're in Fuerteventura training out there as well, secluded away from it all. But it was probably one of the most enjoyable training camps, because we knew it was, apart from a world title fight, that's the fight that Kell always wanted. And it was so easy to train him. It was easy. He was self-motivated. He was the first one up in the morning, ready to do the work. And he was just so concerned that Khan might pull out. And after that, he said, I don't think anybody else could cause me enough worry or stress to fight again. I just want to get Khan out of the way. And obviously in the aftermath, a day or two afterwards, Kell was buzzing, and he said, they could probably go again. And I think when it all died down, and he analysed it all, he said, what, we're not going to recreate that again, are we? We're never going to get that again. I've never had that in my career. That kind of 26,000 people against a guy I wanted to box, who's been my rival all my career in Manchester. And it was just a fantastic night, because we're never going to match that. It can only be downhill from here. So, that's why I think he decided, he's no longer going to do it.
And you mentioned there that sort of he had that buzz about him after the Khan fight. And I think the boxing world did as well. You saw a lot of the younger fighters start to call Kell out after beating Khan. I'm thinking particularly of Conor Benn was sort of the most prominent. And I was wondering, how tempted by those fights was Kell? Like, was there a point where he was thinking of signing on to fight someone like Conor Benn?
No, I think they were talking about it. But, this is the thing, I think Kell's always, all the way through his career, people have always doubted Kell, saying, he's avoiding this kid, he don't want to fight anybody. And it was never that way. It was always a case of he couldn't get the fights that he wanted. And when you look at the performance against Khan, it did, whet people's appetites for more. But realistically, he needed to be 10 years earlier so that he could carry on boxing, because 36 is an old term in boxing years. 36, especially for a lighter weight like a welterweight, it is an old age. And Kell managed to wind back the clock, but to to keep winding the clock back can catch you out. You could get damaged if you're in the wrong fight. So you got to cut your losses really, or quit while you're ahead. But it just shows. I think people, when you think now, realistically, apart from the domestic fighters, Tyson Fury is retired. The bubbles burst a little bit with Anthony Joshua. Dillian White's been beat. Khan's not around no more. Kell's not around no more. Who's gonna, fill that kind of top level spot now coming through? There's nobody. There's nobody coming through. Probably the most exciting thing is Ricky Hatton making a comeback against Pereira. That's exciting people, and seeing him down to weight. That's how kind of desperate we are now for some big fights in the UK. And I think that reflects in people's comments saying, "Oh, Kell's got a few more left in him." Yeah, if he can fight like that and perform like he did against Khan, yeah, he could, be in some good fights. But I think I think Kell knows it's a little bit too late for him now. The desire he had as a younger man, at 20, like from 20 odd years old and winning the world title fight, he's no longer got, and it was only purely Khan who gave him that desire. And I don't think there's anybody out there, even the younger guns, the Conor Benns, and I'm going to say Eubanks, he's not young, but the younger guys don't really, whet his appetite. So he's not getting motivated for it. When they're calling him out, he's like, "Well, yeah, I'm just like the old dog now. I've seen it all. I've done it all." But it does make you wonder what it would have been like if he could have got those defining fights in his career and those big names. Because I honestly believe that he would have beat Spence if it had been a different training camp, if he hadn't been injured, and he would have been, one of the pound for pounds. But it just doesn't work like that. Sometimes you get injured, you find yourself in sticky situations like he did in Tenerife when he got slashed, and everything's kind of delayed his career. He's had a lot of time in between fights, sometimes 10 and 11 months. Which all adds up over time. So, I think he's done the right thing to call it a day, because he's kind of tempting fate if he goes on any further.
And to put Kell's amazing career in sort of a wider context, you've handled some unbelievable fighters, former world champions. I just wondered, for you as a trainer, where does Kell Brook rank in terms of the fighters you've worked with?
Well, Kell Brook was probably the first fighter, maybe alongside Junior Witter, but one of the first fighters I kind of trained on myself. My father trained Kell from an early age, from 10 till about 18 when he turned pro. And Junior Witter came in when he was about 23. So I've known Kell from being, not having any amateur fights, to his first amateur fight, to his last professional fight. And it's been a long journey. And obviously I did a little bit of work with Naz, but my relationship with Naz was totally different than it was with Kell. So I would have to say that of all the fighters, Johnny Nelson, Junior Witter, Nazim Ahmed, all the fighters I've trained, Kell's been the most enjoyable, because it's been so varied. We've been all over the place. I don't think he reached what we expected of him because of so many, setbacks in his career. I do honestly believe if things had worked out different, he would have been better than Nazim Ahmed. I think he's a better boxer than Nazim Ahmed. Nazim Ahmed had the power to turn a losing fight around, whereas Kell was a very good boxer as well. And I don't think we ever saw the best of Kell, what he was capable of, because even against Khan or against Porter, there was still more. He still had more than that. And that's, kind of is disappointing. But, we got what we got. But we've had a good laugh. He's always been disciplined in camps with me. He's always done as he was told. It's very easy to train him in camps. The hard bits were out in between fights. And there's been ups and downs. He's left and trained elsewhere, but he's always come back. There's never been a fallout. We've never had crosswords ever. I've just said he's almost like the prodigal son. You send him on his way. I used to say, go and learn for yourself. If you want to do that, you go and make that mistake if you want to do it, and then come back when you've made your mistake. And he did it with Zarafa. He did it with Crawford, a fight I advised him not to take because he wasn't right. And I can't just, somebody like Kell I've been with a long time, I can't participate in a fight like that just for the money. For me, it's got to be that he's going to win. So although it was disappointing against Crawford, maybe that's what actually set up the Khan fight, because I do believe Crawford and his camp probably thought that Kell Brook was shot because of the way the fight ended. It was very uncharacteristic of Kell to be stopped that way. And I think they were full of confidence going into the fight with Khan. You know, Crawford even made the journey across to England to watch it. But the Kell Brook that turned up for Khan was a totally different fighter that turned up for Crawford. And I did catch Crawford looking sometime and thinking, he almost like, this doesn't look like the Kell Brook I boxed. And I believe if Kell Brook had listened and trained the way he was supposed to, I honestly believe he would have beat Crawford. People say, what a load of rubbish, but, everybody thought Canelo was unbeatable and never expected Bivol to beat him. Boxing's, is full of surprises. There's very, very few exceptional fighters. People were saying that Lomachenko was exceptional, that Canelo was exceptional. But in reality, if I'm being honest, the only exceptional fighter I've ever seen in the last 10, 15 years is Floyd Mayweather, because he's negotiated everybody and beat everybody. There's very few exceptional fighters. Errol Spencer's very good. I think he'll beat Crawford. But I think Kell Brook, in his day, would have beat all the top fighters in different circumstances. So it's been an enjoyable journey. We've kind of grown up together. When he came in the gym at 10 years old, I was 30. I can remember saying when he hit 30, Kell, you're the age now that I was when you walked into the gym, and he went, can't believe how much time's flown. So, we've had a great journey. It's been a good ride, and it was great to finish the way it did.
And I just want to ask, how are you doing on time? Are you okay?
Yeah, I've got about another 5 minutes.
Nice one. So I just wanted to touch upon there. You brought up the name of Floyd Mayweather, and I spoke to Kell in the build up to the Khan fight, and that was one name that he mentioned as sort of someone that he never got the chance to fight and would love the opportunity if it came up. And Floyd's still out there, still doing exhibitions. He's got one coming up this weekend. Is that something you've ever talked about with Kell? And do you think if Floyd came knocking, that'd be enough to get Kell Brook back in the ring?
No, I honestly do think that Kell Brook is finished. He's finished. He doesn't need, at some point you're going to have to finish. And Floyd, it's great doing his exhibitions and keeping himself in touch with the game and still showcasing his talents and giving lesser fighters chances. It is interesting. I think it is interesting, like what Jake Paul's doing and what Floyd's doing. But I think the thing with Kell, I just know him that he's an all or nothing kind of thing, and it's got to be a proper fight for him. Because even when he's in the gym sparring novices or whatever you're doing, he wants to win. He takes it serious. He's not like, well, it doesn't matter. It's only a tap around or an exhibition. He's 100% does not like losing, even if it's just a friendly. He don't like losing at all. So he wouldn't participate in a fight if there was no decision to be made. So I honestly don't think he's going to come back. I don't think he would. I think he's finally made his mind up. And getting out, well, he's got his money, he's got his faculties, and he's had a good fight and a good response. And even now, I spoke to him last week. He said, people are stopping me in the street saying what a fantastic fight Khan was and what an occasion. And I think even for me as a trainer, this is the most recognition I've had on the streets, because Khan was a household name that everybody knew from the Olympics, and this fight has been talked about for so long. And so many big domestic fights, or even world title fights have missed the point and not being made. And luckily this one was.
And you said it's the Brook performance that you've got the most recognition for, but I was wondering, do you have a favourite Brook performance that you've contributed to from his career? Is the one night where it sort of all came together that stands out for you?
There've been various nights with Kell, because everyone's, people say to me, you should write a book, and we could write a chapter for every camp he's had, because they've all been different. They've all had their ups and downs. They've all had something happen. Favourite fights, obviously, I can remember finally getting the world title fight and thinking, this is, as a trainer, you never really see how good you are as a trainer until you're in with an opponent who can fight as good as your fighter. Because when you've got a good fighter like Kell Brook, if you're not a particularly good trainer, and it happens a lot, the fighter can override the mistakes of what the trainer's making. But the litmus test is when you get into a world title fight against a legitimate champion who's very, very good. That's when the flaws in your training come out. And Kell Brook, trained fantastic for that fight. He had fantastic sparring. The camp was great, and he pulled it off. Many people thought he wasn't going to make it. So it would have to be Sean Porter, because for me, in all the the fights that Kell Brook had, that was the one where questions were definitely going to be asked, and if people weren't doing the jobs properly, whether it was the nutritionist Greg Marriott, me as a trainer, or Kell Brook as a fighter, somebody was going to get exposed. And unfortunately, everybody did the job properly, and Kell got the win. So for me, that was, I wouldn't say it was the most enjoyable one, but it was a kind of marker of where everybody's at. And that Kell Brook, he didn't beat somebody for a vacant title. He beat a kid who, bashed up Devon Alexander, bashed up Paul Malignaggia. Everybody was describing as the next, mini Mike Tyson, whatever. And I don't think anybody gave him a chance, but he did. So I would have to put that one on the top of the list.
Just one last question before I let you go. I just wondered, said you spoke to Kell last week. Has he give you any indication of what's next for him in sort of his life now that the boxing's behind him? What's Kell Brook going to do next?
And I have no idea. And you could have asked me that question 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. In between fights, what's he doing? We spend a lot of time together on training camps and in the gym, and we've always got on well. And when the fights are over and the dust settles down, he goes off and does his own thing. We're in a group chat together on WhatsApp. He'll pop his head up every now and again. And he'll drop a comment and they'll disappear, and nobody kind of asks him. We'll message him and we'll see what he's doing. Sometimes we'll go on a bike ride, but we've never lived in each other's pockets, only when we've been on training camp. And I think that's why it's worked so well, because as soon as it's all over, he's off doing his thing, we're doing ours, I'm into another training camp, and the next time you see him is when he walks in the gym for another session. So he has got other interests in his life, fishing, cycling. He's got his kids, which are all growing up. I would imagine he's going to spend time with them. But at some point, we will cross paths and we'll have a chat, or have a coffee. We'll meet up every now and again. But that's pretty much the way it's been, ever since I've known him. It's just the way it is. We don't have the same circle of friends. Apart from going to his kids' christenings and whatever, we don't socialise together. It's a business relationship, but he's always going to be there. He's always going to be contactable, and we're always going to be friends, but it's like a distant friendship. I mean? He's obviously, he's just like one of your kids who've left the nest and gone to the other side of the country or other side of the world. Even there'll always be that contact, but that's how the relationship is.